Hours after his presidential victory, Emmanuel Macron joined François Hollande at the Arc de Triomphe. This is the day France commemorates victory in World War II. They laid wreaths at the tomb of the unknown soldier. It was very presidential. On Sunday night, Macron won by a better than expected margin. It is a remarkable achievement for someone who has never held elected office and who only started his movement a year ago. He's promising change both inside France and in its relations with Europe. Across the EU, there will be huge relief.
Merci, mes amis!
France has won tonight. Everyone told us that it was impossible, but they underestimated France. I thank you for your support, your trust, and all your commitment. I am aware of my responsibilities, and I will not deceive you. And for the next 5 years, I'm going to represent all of you.
Conceding defeat, Marine Le Pen struck a somber tone, but promised continued opposition.
I congratulate Macron on the results, and I have wished him to have all the success, because we all know the difficulties France is facing. I would like to thank all the 11 million of French people who voted for me, and those who have supported me during this campaign for their courageous choice. With this historical and massive result, the French people have chosen us as the first opposition movement.
She did not do as well as she might have expected, but never has the National Front done so well. Never have so many French people voted for her ideas. On Monday morning, there were mixed feelings for the new president, who doesn't inspire everyone.
I don't think it takes a fortune teller to say what's showing up in our future. I am not optimistic about the future at all. I hope it will become better, but I'm not really buying into what's being presented to us.
Macron's political honeymoon will be short. Many are lining up to oppose his economic reforms. And he needs to turn his movement into an effective political party by winning seats in June's parliamentary elections. Without a majority there, he'll be isolated and dependent on others. Emmanuel Macron's victory will be welcomed as a victory of liberal values over populism. It'll also be seen as a huge boost for the European Union. But the task ahead is daunting. This country is profoundly divided, and there are many lining up to see him fail. And the National Front is not going away.
World leaders have been responding to the election of Emmanuel Macron. German Chancellor Angela Merkel hailed the result as a victory for European unity. She sees Macron as a key ally in bolstering the EU, with Berlin and Paris at the helm. She gave her reaction to journalists in the capital. Emmanuel Macron carries the hopes of millions of people in France, as well as people in Germany and across Europe. His election campaign was brave and pro-Europe. He stands for cosmopolitanism with a social market economy, and we know that Germany and France are bound together historically. British Prime Minister Theresa May dragged the Macron victory into the British election campaign, and she wants what he got.
Other parties are lining up to tough. That means we need a strong negotiating position. He was elected with a strong mandate, which he can take as a strong position in the negotiations. The UK, we need to ensure we've got an equally strong mandate and an equally strong negotiating position.
Relations between a Macron Elysée and Putin's Kremlin could be interesting after Macron accused Russia of backing a hacking attack on his campaign. Macron also banned Russian media outlets from attending his rallies. In a rare non-confrontational tweet, US President Donald J. Trump offered his best wishes to President-elect Macron.
Police fire tear gas at protesters in the centre of Paris. There have been sporadic clashes here in the east of the French capital in the wake of the second round of the presidential election on Sunday. More than 140 people have been arrested. Scuffles also broke out around the Place de la République, where marchers had gathered to mark Liberation Day. We don't want a president put in place by Brussels, she says, by lobbies, by bankers who represents, in reality, only 30% of the people who voted for him. We want to show we're here, and even if we voted for Macron, we're going to keep a close eye on him and not allow him to continue the work he's begun to dismantle employment legislation. We won't let him get away with it. There were a number of protests during the presidential campaign. Some see the president-elect Emmanuel Macron as too business-friendly and his rival Marine Le Pen as tainted by her party's extreme roots.
Well, Macron's campaign team was apparently the target of, how they described it, a massive hack attack on Friday night. Nobody could talk about this, though, until voting was finished. Somebody's Peter Oliver has more.
Just before the so-called Day of Silence kicked in right at midnight on Friday, well, there was a huge hacking scandal broke. Apparently, Emmanuel Macron's emails had been hacked and were then released to the public. For the Macron camp's part, what they've said is that these emails are nothing more than your standard electoral correspondence between the candidate and his team. However, what they also claim is that in amongst that, there were a number of falsified or doctored documents that were designed specifically to harm the campaign. Now, it is quite interesting that if that was the case, why did this come out at a time when it couldn't be reported? But of course, whenever it comes to anything to do with hacking, the first port of call when it comes to who to point the fingers at, well, it was right at Russia.
Прямо сюрприз. Привез. Сюрприз привез.
Такой офицерский подарок. Ничего здесь такого особенного нет. Ты вот сторож-то? Тут газета «Правда» как раз, держите, 1927 года.
17 апреля.
17 Почитаете.
Давайте сюда.
Лазаревич, дорогой, мы вас, сидите, пожалуйста, мы вас сердечно поздравляем с днем рождения. Мы никогда не забудем того, что вы сделали и для страны, и для нас. Мы это очень хорошо помним. Для нас работа с вами — это очень хорошая школа была. И жизненная, общечеловеческая, и профессиональная. Мы знаем, как вы относились к делу. Это самый лучший для нас был пример. К делу, к стране, к службе. Мы вам за это очень благодарны. Это все с нами идет по жизни. Вам спасибо большое. Мы вас поздравляем сердечно и искренне. И желаем вам всего самого хорошего. Здоровья вам и настроения.
Поздравляю. Спасибо. С днем рождения.
С днем рождения.
The Pentagon approved a $7.5 billion plan to boost America's military presence in the Asia-Pacific region, according to the Wall Street Journal. Also known as the Asia-Pacific Stability Initiative, it was first proposed by Senator John McCain in January. He said the region is in need of a strong deterrence initiative similar to what has been created in Europe against Russian aggression. The five-year plan involves increasing naval assets, troop deployment, and infrastructure. It is viewed as an attempt to underscore Washington's commitment to the region and its allies in response to heightened tensions.
Another American has been detained in North Korea, raising the number of U.S. citizens held there to 4. North Korea arrested Kim Hok-sung on Saturday for unspecified hostile acts. He is the second American professor to be arrested in the last month. Adriana Diaz is in Seoul, South Korea, with the latest on this string of detentions. Adriana, good morning.
Good morning. At this point, little is known about Kim Hak-song or why he was arrested. Pyongyang University of Science and Technology confirmed his detention. He was doing agricultural development work there. This comes just 2 weeks after North Korea detained his colleague, Kim Sang-duk, also known as Tony Kim, for hostile criminal acts as he was trying to leave the country. These latest arrests come amid heightened tensions between the U.S. and North Korea as the North continues to test ballistic missiles and the U.S. has beefed up its military presence in the region as a deterrent. 2 other Americans are also known to be in custody. Last year, University of Virginia student Otto Warmbier was sentenced to 15 years of hard labor after he allegedly stole a propaganda poster. And American Kim Dong-chul is also serving 10 years for alleged espionage. The U.S. State Department says it is aware of this weekend's detention and is working with the Swedish embassy in North Korea, because the U.S. has no diplomatic ties with the North, for the release of all the American prisoners there.
A flicker of hope still burns for these Pakistani men in Serbia. But after months in this abandoned military barracks, their dreams of a new life in Europe look bleak.
Here not available.
We do not have an available shower place and clean toilets. I went to a camp, but they said there was no place. Now I decided to live here.
The barracks are at the center of the capital, Belgrade. The authorities say people can't live there anymore because there's a growing risk of disease. Instead, they want them to be moved to official reception centers scattered across Serbia by the end of May.
All this time we've explained to the migrants that they can't get any kind of proper help while they stay here. Now the state wants to deal with the problem and send them to official centers. There's enough space there, and there's no reason why migrants should be in these barracks.
Activists say the people shouldn't be moved until several decisions are made.
The questions are, which centers will these people go to? Will they be locked in the centers or allowed to leave? Will these people still be entitled to the rights they've been guaranteed? And we need to determine who really deserves asylum, who should stay and who should go.
And that's a problem for people like 25-year-old Siragi. He, like many others, wants to head further towards Western Europe. He doesn't have any documents. If he goes into an official center, he could be told to leave Serbia.
I don't want any signature, anything.
I do not want to sign up anywhere. I do not want to give any fingerprints to the authorities. I just want to get out of here into European countries.
Finally on Europe's shores after a perilous crossing. But what about the migrants who didn't get rescued? Since Friday, the UN Refugee Agency says it's seen more than 6,000 people crossing the Mediterranean to reach Italy. But over 200 are feared to have drowned this weekend, according to survivors.
The Italian Coast Guard has informed us of a rescue where some 70 people were aboard an inflatable boat that mentioned that another more or less 70 people were missing. We're still trying to get more information from the people that will disembark over the coming day to see if they are survivors of this incident. But this tragically brings the total number of people dead and missing since the beginning of the year to more than 1,150.
Migrant arrivals to Italy by sea are up about 30% this year on 2016, when a record 181,000 came. An increasing number of Syrian families are said to be among those making the treacherous journey from Libya.
The Civil War ended more than 150 years ago, but monuments commemorating Confederate history still evoke raw emotions. About 700 protesters faced off yesterday in New Orleans, where several monuments are being removed. Michelle Miller is in New Orleans. Michelle, good morning.
Good morning. All quiet now, but the battle lines are drawn over the probable removal this week of that monument to a Civil War icon and others like it. The white mayor of this predominantly black town says keeping these symbols of the Confederacy on a pedestal is out of step with today's values of inclusion. Hey, hey, ho, ho, white supremacy's got to go! Opposing protesters marched Sunday to a statue honoring Confederate General Robert E. Lee. Take him down! On one side of the debate, those who want the city's Confederate monuments taken down, saying they are symbols of racism and white supremacy.
The fight that we're waging is against the city fathers who have refused to bring about genuine equality and freedom for the black people here.
On the other side, supporters of monuments who argue they honor Southern heritage and history.
We want it to stay. We understand that most of us can only be here for a day, but it's a symbolic gesture of standing up for what we believe in.
The clash comes as the city plans to remove the statue of Lee and 2 other Confederate monuments. The first to go was the Liberty Place Monument, which was removed in the middle of the night last month. Citing safety concerns, crews wore masks and bulletproof vests. The move sparked protests, including this violent clash near the statue of Jefferson Davis, who served as president of the Confederacy.
Loser, commie, pot smoking.
As the city plans to remove the remaining monuments, tensions are high. The New Orleans Police Department confirms multiple threats have been made toward contractors hired by the city to take down the statues. But New Orleans Mayor Mitch Landrieu says he's not backing down.
The removal of these statues sends a clear message, an unequivocal message, to the people of New Orleans and to the people of our nation that New Orleans celebrates our diversity.
In terms of award shows, the MTV Movie and TV Awards might not be the most prestigious, but it certainly is one of the most progressive. For the first time in its 25-year history, the award show eliminated gender-based distinctions for its acting categories. Women emerged victorious in both categories. Beauty and the Beast's Emma Watson won Best Actor in a Movie, and Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things won Best Actor in a Show. The Grammy Awards eliminated separate male and female categories in 2011, but major movie and TV-driven award shows like the Golden Globes and Oscars still have gender-specific acting categories. But even in the Oscars' non-gendered categories, men tend to win over women. In 2008, Diablo Cody was the last woman to win Best Screenwriter for Juno, and Kathryn Bigelow is the only female director to have ever taken home the directing Oscar.
Israel has 2 official languages, Hebrew and Arabic. That might change soon, though. A cabinet committee approved a bill on Sunday, May 7th, that would revoke the official language status for Arabic, sending it to Israel's parliament, the Knesset, for a vote. The bill would downgrade Arabic to having a, quote, special status in the state, leaving Hebrew as the sole official language. Although Arabic would no longer be designated as an official language, government services and all documents would still provide Arabic translations. The Jerusalem Post reports Knesset member Avi Dichter said the upcoming vote on the bill is, quote, a big step toward establishing our identity. The bill was first proposed in 2011, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party has been working to finalize its wording ever since. The Jerusalem Post says the Knesset will vote on the bill on Wednesday.
Country police said the Taliban has captured a district in northern Afghanistan and reportedly forced thousands of people to flee. After almost 2 days of heavy clashes, Afghan security forces withdrew Saturday from Kala Azal district, which is one of 6 within Kunduz province. The country has been in a fight to hold off the Taliban in Kunduz province since the insurgents briefly captured the city in September 2015 and October 2016. The Taliban announced the beginning of its annual spring offensive last week.
In 2015, ISIL announced the establishment of its Afghan branch, ISIS-K, making it the first time the group officially spread outside the Arab world. ISIS-K overran large parts of Nangarhar and Kunar provinces near the Pakistan border. According to the U.S. forces, Afghanistan, the group's presence peaked at between 2,500 to 3,000, but defections and recent battlefield losses have reduced their number to a maximum of 800. Last month, the U.S. dropped its largest non-nuclear bomb on the group's hideouts in eastern Afghanistan. The bomb, dubbed the mother of all bombs, killed at least 95 terrorists.
Reuters has reported that at least 2 people were killed and 6 injured when multiple Islamic State suicide bombers attacked a base in northern Iraq where U.S. military advisors are stationed. In addition, 2 of the militants died when they detonated their vests at the entrance to the K1 base overnight, and 3 more were killed by Kurdish Peshmerga forces who control the Kirkuk area where it is situated. One officer told Reuters they were wearing uniforms like the Kurdish Peshmerga and had shaved their beards to look like us.
Now, an agreement has been reached to evacuate Nusra Front terrorists from a refugee camp in the southern suburbs of the Syrian capital Damascus. According to Beirut-based Al-Manar television, wounded militants of the Takfiri group, also known as Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, will leave the Yarmouk refugee camp. They are due to be relocated to the militant-held Idlib province in northwestern Syria. The agreement represents the second phase of an earlier deal with the government to evacuate people from 2 Shia towns besieged by militants and 2 other towns on the Lebanese border in which militants and their families are holed up. The first phase was implemented last month.
German authorities are evacuating around 50,000 people from their homes in the northern city of Hanover, while 5 suspected aerial bombs from World War II were made safe for removal. City officials say 2 suspected bombs were found at a construction site. 3 more were then discovered nearby. Leaflets in German, Polish, Turkish, English, and Russian were delivered door to door to make sure everyone had evacuated Sunday. The city's museums were opened for free, and the Senior Citizens Agency organized an afternoon Scrabble and card-playing gathering so evacuated residents would have places to go.
The mayor of Montreal has declared a state of emergency, with residents evacuated from their homes as rising floodwaters threaten dikes and breakwaters throughout Canada's Quebec province. In response to the flooding, around 1,200 military personnel have been deployed to support emergency services. On Sunday, a statement by the City of Montreal declared a 48-hour state of emergency and warned that forecasts suggested the situation would not be short-lived. According to the statement, at least 180 homes have already been evacuated, and the Red Cross was providing shelter to those residents forced out. CNN meteorologist Michael Guy predicted rain will continue falling over eastern Canada for the next 5 days.